Shalom Lord Christ, is officer of 1,000 Yahweh, under Commander Yahanna, the I.S.U.P.K, Atlanta School. This is the Monday night history class, and tonight's topic is we learning about the Gullah Wars, the Gullah Geechee, which is like part of the Seminoles. So like they're all Seminoles, because Seminoles doesn't necessarily. Anybody know what the word Seminole means? Anybody know what that means? Seminole means like it means like wild. It was like a word that the that our oppressors called the wild Native Americans and everything. They call them. Then he mixes in when the blacks. See, basically, like just to do a quick rundown. People always thought that we went north for the through the what's that, Underground Railroad, right? You was always taught you went north, right? People didn't realize that most of the people actually went south, because like long story short, it wasn't like which one is easier to get to if you were in the south? Florida, right? It's hard to get to New York, and that's a long way. That's 500 miles or better, right? It's easy just to go down to Florida. So basically, at this time, you gotta remember, Florida wasn't bought until like I think the late 1800s. So Florida was not part of the United States. Because remember, it was like the purchases. They was purchasing the United States from different places, like the Louisiana Purchase. You know, you heard that before, right? You know, the Spanish-American War. Heard that before? That was when that was before we that was when Mexico used to be like New Mexico, Arizona, California. That was all Mexico. See what I'm saying? Because they lost it in the Spanish-American War, and now they get our oppressor got all of the part of the fertile California. They can grow stuff there, right? And they got the desert. You know what I'm saying? The Mexicans got the desert. That's where they had to live at, on the desert. So that's just how they all do. This like we was fighting them in the Gullah Wars and everything like that. But then when they didn't mind us being. Anybody ever heard of the Everglades? Everglades down in Florida. That's like the swamps. So where's like swamp is like the desert. Ain't nothing growing really there. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we did. Ain't nothing but mosquitoes and heat. That's all that's going on out there. So they didn't really want to be there no way, so they let us be in the swamps and all of that. So that's what, but it was better being in the swamps with the mosquitoes than to be with our oppressor. Hope you understand that, right? Alright? Go ahead, sis.
Most of the Seminoles, they actually all consider it wild, but it's like a runaway. It's really like creatures. That's what my father said.
Yeah, they are like the Seminoles. Some of like the sister was saying, like Crete, that was still Reuben. A lot of it was still Reuben, but then the Seminoles just became like the majority. The majority of the people they call the Seminoles are the Reubenites. You know what I'm saying? Now some can be Gad, some can be Judah. Don't get too caught up into who exactly who all of the time. That's where we get like confused and everything like that. We can be Reuben too. We just know that we Israel because we went through the oppression, right? Because Reuben, Reuben looked like us. You know what I'm saying? They didn't look like, you know how they say like the Mexicans look, how the Isupk brothers look. They didn't look like those brothers. See what I'm saying? Reuben looked like us, like black Americans, what you would call us, right? There was really no difference. They were dark skinned, olive complexion, both, whatever, Negro hair, all that, right? Like sister was saying, like they was even similar to like the Caribbean. Like A lot of them are actually went down to Puerto Rico and a bunch of other different places. Like this was like like I said, we lived amongst each other, right? Because we all knew that we were brothers just from across the sea. We all knew this. Y'all get like I should have brought. I forgot to bring it, but there's a book called Black Indians. I tell everybody to get that book. It will show you right there just that how much black people and Indians got the, Native Americans, how we got, we was how close we were. See what I'm saying? That you would never, like, people, they think that it was slaves. That, they think that the Native Americans were slave owners. But that was like a very small portion of Native Americans that were slave owners. And most of them were oppressors. They just might have had a Native American mother. Right? And so it was just words that was given to the slaves so we would fight each other. So then you'd be like, well, you can't run like, okay, think about you as a slave, right? You hear the word gets out that there's Native Americans, right? There's Native Americans, down in Florida, they got a whole settlement down there and they protecting you, right? How do you break that up? How do you stop that? You get a few that's willing to play ball with you, right? Or you go get the women and make a child with them. They good at taking the women and raping them, right? They good about that. Like that's what they did when they first came over here. They took the women and raped them, right? Had a bunch of bastard children, right? That's what they did. So what better than to do that, have those children, right? Now those children go and speak for them, for the Native Americans. If you go ask the Native Americans, they'll look at, because like all of a sudden, like they fighting for something, they'll tell you, it's on record. Like y'all remember that in the Dakotas, when they had that oil pipeline, they had that issue. The lady was saying, like, it was like, I don't even know who this, we don't even know who this man is. He just all of a sudden speaking for us. They don't even know who he is. He wasn't he wasn't their chief, like, he wasn't an elder. He wasn't any of that. He just all of a sudden, like, he was just Jesse Jackson. Where the hell Jesse Jackson come from? See what I'm saying? Where Martin Luther King came from. Where all these people, they just came from nowhere, right? And all of a sudden, they tell black people, they speak for us now. That's who these people were. You know what I'm saying? So then they used them to like enslave us even further. So, but then they would have those people be slave owners. And then like I said, the word was getting out to the slaves. They was like, they whispering, how black people is. You know how you got like we didn't need, black people, we didn't need the internet, you know what I'm saying? You know how like something happened on one side of town and before you even get home, the whole other side of town know about it? That's how it always was. So we would, talk about, hey, man, somebody, hey, man, down in Florida, man, they free down there. You know what I'm saying? If we can get down there, we'll be free. They talking to each other, all the other, go meet up with other slaves, other plantations. Hey, man, they free. They free down there in Florida, man. You know what I'm saying? They telling brothers and sisters, and the word got out because basically, well, we're going to bring it out in this one. We'll have it, speak a little bit. But basically, what was it? I think it was Spain or France. I can't remember which one. But they own Florida. So they wanted to keep Florida. But they don't really love us like that. They don't really love us like that. So it wasn't like they were trying to look out for us. They just wanted us to fight for them for free. Just like how they got us to fight in their military for free. Right? They just wanted to, well, we'll free you. That's what they did to Confederate armies. They said, yeah, we'll free you if you come, fight in our military. Because they did the same thing to them, right? So they said, well, y'all could be free if y'all come down to Florida. Because they knew that they didn't have, you don't have to send no armies down there. They don't know the land. If you send an army from Spain or France, from Europe, basically, down to Florida to fight against the Americans, you gonna lose the fight, right? You gotta think about it. They could just send more people because they all local there. It takes you a year and a half to get there. See what I'm saying? They could just, get on horseback, get on the horse, and in a matter of a couple of days, they there from pretty much anywhere, right? No more than a week from Cali, I think. About a week or two from California, they could be from there and go on over there, right? So, it wasn't hard for them. So that's why they let the Native Americans fight to keep their land. See, they real clever on how they do things. When he said, okay, we're gonna let y'all be free, they know we're gonna fight for it. So basically keeping their land for them. So I'm just this person right here speak a little bit.
When the Gullah beat the U.S. in back-to-back wars. The Gullah won 3 wars against the United States in the 1800s. See, what had happened was, the U.S. declared itself independent in 1776. That's when the states went from being colonies of Britain to becoming the United States of America. And already had 13 colonies, but they were hungry for more. Problem was, Spain owned Florida and was not about to give it up so easy. They put word out that if black folk made their way to Florida from the low country, they'd be free from slavery. Now, Spain wasn't being righteous. They just figured that black folk would be their bodyguards. Florida was nothing but swamps and mosquitoes. Folk were catching malaria out there. It was hard living. But the Gullah Geechee who run away there preferred that than plantations. And they made the land livable. Started families and intermingled cultures with Native Americans. White folks called them Seminoles, meaning wild or untamed. The more melanated ones were called black Seminoles. Note, runaway slaves who established their own land and communities were known as maroons. They were self-emancipated, means they freed their damn selves. There were maroon communities in Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Louisiana, Nova Scotia, which is in Canada, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Cuba, Panama, Brazil, etc. So when I say we all cousins, y'all, I mean that. In 1818,
they said so they were spread out all over. So like the sister was saying, like we said, we all cousins. All right. So let me see where she was. So it said they were maroon. That's what they call us, maroon. Maroon, you know what that means, right? You know what maroon means? Maroon is like it's like a color, like a dark red. So they would say we the maroon people, cause like black people have like like especially when you mix with a little bit of Indian, you have like a dark reddish complexion. So they'll call you like the maroons. So that's they had them all over the place. So you have maroons all over. What does it say? Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Louisiana, Nova Scotia, Mexico. See, Mexico. Like you think it ain't black people or people that look black like us in Mexico, right? Nah, they over there looking just like you in Mexico. You just see the image they always want you to see, right? You don't know there was people that look like there's people that's in Puerto Rico that looks identical to us. Literally, you can't. If they didn't start speaking Spanish, if they had J's on and whatever, you wouldn't even know they was Hispanic. Right? They dress like you. They wouldn't even know you was Hispanic. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, if you actually, and what you're saying is true, but you find that mostly in like the southern parts, even like Brazil, a lot of those parts. But if you go up to New York, that's what they call it, the melting pot. Most likely like New York, maybe Jersey, and Philly, you will see that. Like in the South, it's not really. They'll call like a Colombian or Puerto Rican or Mexican, which is very off. But if you're up north, you'll see that more. You'll see like the Puerto Ricans hanging with the blacks, or you know what I mean, because they're most similar. They actually do look more identical. It's when you come to the South. Also, what you just said with the maroons were were or whatever. A lot of times, if you are from Atlanta, Georgia, primarily, we have red dirt. That red dirt, we're identical in that color to the red dirt. So that's why we like that reddish brown stuff.
The reddish brown complexion. That's what we are. So like, yeah, a lot of it. The real reason why like you don't see a lot of mixing in the South versus the North, like up north in New York, the reason why you'll see that more so like in the South, because you got to think like, okay, slavery was bigger here than in the North, right? And it's not because they in the North they didn't like slavery. It was just considered like low class. You know what I'm saying? It don't mean that they didn't, it don't mean that slavery wasn't around. They had slaves in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, New York. They had slaves all over. But it was just, over to all the general public, it was like looked upon as low class. You know what I'm saying? So, but up north, there wasn't as many laws to keep us from each other. In the South, there was more laws to keep us from each other, because we were, I think they're trying, like, it was more, how do you say? It was more physically oppressive. Hold your peace, one quick second. It was more physically racist down here. Over there, they were more systematic racists. You know what I'm saying? So here it was more physical. They would hang you on stuff. They showed you physically that you were black and you were poor and we hate you, right? But up north, it was like, you know what I'm saying? We just look down on you. We let you do whatever you do, but you below us. You know what I'm saying? You know it. Just like when you ever go to Chicago, New York, you know there's a difference between like Manhattan and Brooklyn. You know there's a difference between them two places. And they treat you the same way. It's like kind of how it is now. Like you go to Buckhead, right? And if you don't look apart, how they gonna act towards you? Same way, right? They act like that. Act like you don't belong here. That's how they would do us there. So that's kind of, but then like I said, the laws were made more here because we were known for fighting against them, against their oppression, right? Because they oppressed us physically, right? Because if you oppress somebody physically, they typically don't fight back. If you oppress somebody mentally, they less fight back. You get what I'm saying? That's like how women, or people, just anybody, you like in a verbally abusive relationship, you stay longer or whatever, or there's somebody physically hitting you, you know what I'm saying? You kind of get the point of it, you know what I'm saying? Okay, you're not supposed to leave, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. When it's emotionally, it's like the wounds are different than it is physically. You get what I mean? And that's kind of what the psychology with that was. So we were fighting more, so then that's why they made laws to benefit them and keep us from fighting them. And then over time, we just kept the same laws. Like to ourselves, we just stopped being around them. We didn't like running with them just because they didn't let us do it. They made it against the law for us to hang with each other. And then they started spreading rumors about each other. Well, they hate you over there. They hate you over there. So then we just naturally start separating ourselves from each other. But when we separate from each other, guess who we align with? The oppressor, right? So to align with him. Because that's what he wants it to be in the end. He wants you to be separated and divided so you align with him. You know what I'm saying? All right. Oh, go ahead, Azar.
The water said about me, y'all want to make sure with the about me, I don't want to really really heavy points, sir. Growing up north, I used to meet a lot of, dark-skinned Hispanics or Mexicans, Colombians and all that. And they used to put it in their names, right? And they have a little separate culture. They go Boricua and Morena. And I used to know some people up north, that's their name. Morena would mean dark skin. Right? And I know some people named La Negro, like Negro. So you see when it's in the names, it's got different You know, and then the Israelite was identified as speaks of, you know, the dark-skinned races of Star Party. And that's why you see, you know, not light-skinned Mexicans, light-skinned Brazilians on TV and magazines, and you know, you really see or hear much about the sisters, you know what I mean? So like you said.
You know, they try to keep like I said, when you think of a Native American, you always thought of as light-skinned, long hair Native Americans. That's what that's the image. That looks more like Isupk, right? That's so they can try to say like they not related to you. But no, some look like Isupk, some look like us. And some was more of a mixture. Right? Like we had a sister one time in the school, she was Isupk, her father was actually Isupk, her mother was Judah. Like that's how brothers looked, like that, right? They looked like that. They didn't all the time look like, you know, how they try to put it. Like, you know, but that's like I said, just to separate us. Because they know that, you know, they know that we color struck because they caused it. See what I'm saying? They know that they killed all of the, you know, or destroyed all of the black images that we had so that, you know, they can become the image and everything. All right. We go back to the sister.
Andrew Jackson, who was then an army general, this was before he became president, he led the army to claim and colonize Florida. The Gullah and the Native Americans, aka the Seminoles, fought him and won. About 200 black Seminoles, according to Rosalind Howard's book called Black Seminoles in the Bahamas, they dipped from Florida to Andros Island in the Bahamas between 1821 and 1837. And that's because they didn't want to risk being enslaved again.
So you got some brothers, like I said, they were saying they went to different, you know, where the Benjamites were at. They didn't want to be enslaved. They went to the Bahamas. They got up out of there. So, let me see. From Florida to Andros Island. So, yeah, Andrew Jackson. Because, you know, Andrew Jackson, he did a lot for, you know, our oppressor. He did a lot. So that's why he got his own city, which everybody, you know, Jacksonville, Florida, that's named after Andrew Jackson. That's where it comes from, right? So they named it after him because he was the general that fought and destroyed they destroyed the fortitude of the Seminoles. That's what he did. He didn't destroy everybody, but he destroyed the stronghold. And he did the Trail of Tears. I told you about that before, right? The Trail of Tears. He's the one that commissioned the Trail of Tears, where they had all of the Native, you know, the brothers, Native American brothers, and black brothers that was the Seminoles, and they pushed them. They made them walk from Florida all the way to Oklahoma, right? To go into what they call Indian territory, which they sent them to the place where nothing grow at. Which was done on purpose. They did the same thing to Isupk. They put them in a place where nothing grows at. So he said, okay, y'all try to survive there. Try surviving on the desert. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing in Oklahoma but tornadoes. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing out there. So, you know, I don't know if y'all y'all ever seen that show, what was it? It used to be on the cartoon. Courage. Courage, don't talk about the cowardly dog. Y'all remember when she looking out, I don't know what like y'all remember when like he would go outside, it just was nothing? That's Oklahoma. Just nothing. You know, so he can, Marshall will tell you, of course they got, you know, Oklahoma City and Tulsa. But my line, that's Oklahoma. It's nothing. Like you go outside, that's what you see. Nothing. You're in the middle of nowhere.
That's a lot y'all want.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just a whole lot of flat land, and it ain't a whole lot out there.
Exactly, just flat land. Like I said, he grew up in like Tulsa, so he was part of the city. But once you get out of that city area, it is nothing for miles and miles and miles. Nothing is growing. It's not even like grass, really. You got like a little bit, but it's not really. It's small amounts. You just got like just pasture, just land for no reason out there. Go ahead.
So you know how like in Georgia, like you see trees everywhere. Like, they everywhere. You go to Oklahoma and get out of the outskirts, and you see land for miles and miles.
And there's nothing, just the road and land. You drive on the road, you talking about boring, no signal, nothing, just out there. Especially going that Panhandle, Oklahoma, it's terrible. Go ahead.
No hills, it's flat land.
Yeah, no hills, nothing. It's nothing out there. It's literally nothing. That's how it is. Like curs and collie dogs, like nothing. Like in the middle of nowhere, just look outside, what you see? Nothing. You see your house and nothing. Y'all think I'm playing? It's terrible out there. There's nothing. So that's where they put the black and the natives at, right? Just where nothing can be grown, you can't do nothing. And they see, and I showed y'all before, we even did, out there, we made the greatest city that ever was made, like the richest city. Black Wall Street per capita is considered the richest town that ever existed that they have on record. They don't tell you that though. You don't learn that in history. You learn that in school? There you go. You ain't learn that. They ain't teaching that. That was the richest town, right? Per capita. So when we actually came together in the middle of nowhere, right? Let the sister speak a little more.
An Army general in 1826 wrote about the black Seminoles in Florida. This is what he said. We found the Negroes in possession of large fields of the finest land, producing large crops of corn, beans, melons, pumpkins, and other esculent vegetables. They are chiefly runaway slaves from Georgia who had put themselves under the protection of the McCambie. 1818 actually wasn't the first time the U.S. tried to fight.
You see, they talking about the fruits that they was able to make over there in Florida. Like, Florida is really good to grow stuff on. But you see what they did. They didn't want them to be in Florida. And when they were in Florida, they let them be in the Everglades. The Everglades is the swamp. That's where, like, the Everglades is so deserted. It's like a part of the Everglades by Miami. They call it like, I forget the name what they call it, but that's where they bury dead bodies at. That's where everybody, when you kill somebody, they go put a dead body out there. I'm dead. What is it?
Like, because the gators don't get it right.
Yeah, the gators. But then it's you know how like a swamp stinks in a way, right? Has a smell. So if it's a dead body there, it's not going to, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be like consumed more because it's, you know, when you got a humid, like, you know, I be watching the murder stuff too. I know I be watching that. When it's humid like that, they just throw the body out there, it decomposes fast. So they just throw it out there in the middle of nowhere, and nobody's going to the Everglades. What you going to Everglades for? Ain't nothing there. It's swamp. So that's what they let the natives live at after they took them over, of course. But because they seen all the stuff they was growing, they knew that this was making them strong, right? That's why the slave master, you know, they ate the good food. They gave us, what do we eat? Chitlins. They gave you hog butt. You ate pig feet. So you know what I'm saying? They gave you all of the wrong parts of everything, and then, you know, to make you weak. But they eating, you know, the good food. They eating vegetables and everything healthy. They made themselves strong. They basically had you eating like, you know, cattle. Probably worse. The cattle probably ate better. You know what I'm saying?
They lost so fast and so bad that they called the first couple of times skirmishes instead of wars. It's like they were saying, we wasn't ready yet, so those didn't count. The U.S. intentionally called them Indian Wars.
Yeah, they call it that because, like, we had, like, in the 1800s, there was a bunch of little skirmishes, they call it. Like, they just said, okay, no, you just playing with them, you know what I'm saying? But they was getting their butts whooped. He was whooping they behind. We knew the land better. Like, let me tell you this. Devils are not trained to. They're not good at fighting. They're good at war, but they're not good at fighting. You know what I'm saying? War is different than a battle. Y'all get what I mean? Battles are in war, but a war is different from a battle. If we were, all of us, the 12 tribes, were to fight in a battle, we of course would win. Right? Especially if the Lord with us, right? We would win. Right? I mean, if the Lord was just neutral, let's just say he was just neutral, and we would fight, we would win, right? But the reason why we are not going to win is because he's good at war. He's going to play us against each other, make us fight and destroy each other. He's going to go and find the one traitor amongst us. Have him sell everybody out, right? Like y'all remember the 300? Y'all see that movie, the 300? They had the one dude that was crippled. He wouldn't have sold out everybody, right? They gonna find him. What's his name? Igor or something? What's his name? He looked like Igor. That's what look like his name should be. But he got the one sellout. And that's what they gonna do. They gonna find the one person. Go ahead.
He was like a hunchback.
He was a hunchback. They gonna find the one person, right? Now he was supposedly a Spartan. He was supposed to, he was blood related to him. But because he couldn't fight in the war because he was a hunchback, he couldn't fight in the war. His body wouldn't allow him to. So he sold out his whole people. And that's what they gonna find, is that one sellout. See what I'm saying? That's what I mean. They good at war. That's why it says the sword. It didn't say their hands, their weapons are war. It didn't say that. It said they were gifted with the sword. That's the whole warfare. You know what I'm saying? The tools of warfare. They're good at that. And they use those effectively against everybody. That's why they ruling over everybody. They can't beat them ninjas over there in China. They can't beat them. They can't beat them bone eaters in Africa. They can't beat them. You know what I'm saying? They can't beat them people. I'm being for real. Hand to hand, they can't win. They know this. So they gonna have to use a different type of warfare. That's why they can't, they got a book, The Art of War with Sun Tzu. They big on reading that, right? So they do little techniques to separate y'all, to separate all of the people, and then have y'all fight each other, and then you eventually, like I said, they align themselves with you. Alright? What's it like? You align yourself with the oppressor, because when you start fighting each other, he becomes your best friend. But when we were fighting amongst each other, he was our enemy. But when we fight each other, he's not our friend. You know what I'm saying? We fighting for him now.
They fear calling the Negro Wars will lead to slave riots.
They didn't want to call it Negro Wars because it was slave riots.
Jackson, Army General Thomas Jessup wrote, "This, you may be assured, is a Negro, not an Indian war. And if it be not speedily put down, the South will feel the effects of it on their slave population before the end of the next season." Now, Andrew Jackson.
You see that they didn't want to call it a Negro War because they didn't want more riots. Like the 17, like from 1750 to 1850 was like riots back to back. That's why they tell you that he ended, why he ended slavery, right? You think because they had a moral, they decided they wanted to get morals, you know what I'm saying? Every man is created equal. No. The reason why they ended slavery, the reason why is it became too expensive to fight. The slaves were rebelling too much. It was taking too much war. Like these wars here, the Gullah Wars, it was the most expensive war they had to fight. So, yes, I'm telling you, it was more expensive than even the Civil War. It was more expensive than the Independence War, the British against America. It was more expensive than that to fight. And we were winning a lot of those skirmishes, if they want to call it that. We was winning a lot of them. It was so expensive to fight it. So that's why they ended slavery. But you know what happened when they ended slavery? What does the 13th Amendment say?
It's something about where you can, about it's legal to go to jail.
Hold on a second.
I'm not saying it right, but it's
what is
basically
this?
where you can, basically now, but they got prisons and that's basically legal slavery.
God, there you go. We about to say, Azar?
I didn't hear the answer in class, but pretty much I think there's something beating to it, so I can.
Okay. Well, yeah, she's on point, but it's like, how you put it? It was like, no man is to be a slave unless you commit a crime. That's like the complete gist of it. That's what your sister was saying. No man is a slave unless he commits a crime. So guess what? The next thing that was built after 1865. What was built? Go ahead, sis.
Prison.
Exactly, sis. Yes, at the end. Prisons was built. 1865, they started building up industrialized prisons. Prisons, like, you know how you got like a prison you go to, it's like a whole big, like, you know, a prison, like a federal prison. They didn't have those. The prisons they had was like, at the police station. That's why you see like in old Western movies, where's the jails at? In the police station. They didn't have no prisons like that. Like if they had it, it was very few. But then after that, they started making industrialized prisons so that they can enslave you now. Because now, like I said, they're not good at battle. They're good at war. They didn't want to keep fighting us. So they said, you know what? All of y'all are free. Unless y'all commit a crime.
But wouldn't also after they would just come up to like a black person and say, hey, you owe me this and you done this, and then they could just take you in that way?
Exactly. That's committing a crime. Who they gonna believe? They ain't gonna believe the black person, right? So they would just, but then what they would do is, like, the presidents and all of the other people in government, they would make up laws. Like the one law I told y'all, that one of the big laws that locked up a lot of black and Indians or Native Americans, whatever, you know, our Gadite and Reuben brothers, what they did was they made it illegal for us to congregate, right? It was illegal for us to congregate with each other. So then guess what they can do now? Lock you up and make you a slave. So then now what does that do? Now it changes your mind from, okay, I don't have to fight, you know, more because I'm not physically oppressed, right? Now all I have to do is just stay away from Native Americans. And I don't have to be a slave no more. Go ahead,
Concept of water. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I think they started what they call the vagrancy laws. You know, we just came out of slavery, and we ain't got no jobs. If you don't got no job, you got no place to live, then we gotta put you in prison. And then you got these what you call it convict leasing. These devils keep coming up new ways to you know what I mean, to keep us in bondage.
Vagrancy, like, yeah, that was one too. If you don't have a job, you got to go to jail. But you know they're not gonna hire you. So it changed. You see what it does? It changes your focus. Instead of your focus on being, you know, your focus being, you know what? I'm gonna go and fight for my own independence. Why you know, like do that? You're not fighting for that no more. See what I'm saying? You just gonna say, you know what? I'm just gonna not follow. I'm just not gonna not break these laws, right? And then I'm gonna be good if I don't break the laws. I ain't gotta worry about going to jail. I ain't gotta worry about being a slave no more. I'm free now. I want to get my freedom back, right? So it just changes your mind on that. So, like I said, it's all psychology. Like psychology, how they know how the brain works is just freaking, you can tell that is like something ingrained in them. Like you can tell that's like a higher power that makes them that good at it. I mean, they get it from Satan. Let's just be for real. The ultimate deceiver, right? But I mean higher power, higher than them. You know what I'm saying? Higher than people. Like they get it from, of course, an angel that is from the Most High, right? He actually teaching them he actually shows them how to do all this. You can tell it's from that, because who even thinks that deep on how to psychology? They call it psych wars. You know, how to just break a person's spirit. You know what I'm saying? They defeat you before they even put their hands on you. They really like study that, right? They call it psyops. That's what we call it, psyops. They psychologically defeat you. Like right now, we don't even know. We in war right now. We fighting against Russia and China. But it's not a hands war. They fight each other, all right? That's how they fight each other, right? They sending out, they trying to hack each other's systems, get all of each other's stuff. That's war, right? It costs too much money to send soldiers somewhere. Plus, you got to deal with, a lot. You got to deal with the publicity of it. With the publicity doesn't go in your favor. Now you got to spend money on trying to change people's minds. You got to do all. It just costs too much. Just find you a hacker. Get you a team of hackers. Pay them. Let them hack into their stuff. Spread a bunch of rumors. You know what I'm saying? That ain't that what he said? That's how Trump got in office? By Russia's hacking? Think about it. Which one is better? You go and try to fight America, or you go this? Vote for Trump. Vote for Trump. Vote for Trump. And they vote for Trump, and he destroys America even more. Like who? Go ahead, sis.
I was going to add and say, especially with social media now today, it's a little different than it was. It took time for newspaper articles to come out or propaganda to come out during the times they had wars in the past. So, technology today is a little bit more fluid where it come out a little quicker. So, yeah.
Exactly. It says you could just do a social media post, right? Social media, and all of a sudden, before you know it, like what was one thing? I'm not sure who said it, but let's just say it was. Remember they said that the coronavirus was from the 5G. Remember that when it first came out? That could have been through Russia, right? Let's just say that was through Russia, right? Now, what did that do? Man, you know what I'm saying? It just looks that made you not, want to get a 5G phone, right? Just little stuff like that they do that set you up. I just got straight from the 5G towers. But no, it's just think about that, how they could have done that, right? Go ahead, sis. Somebody about to say something? All right. So that's what they do. It's called psyops. They just go in. They can put in a post. They know the metrics, how to make something go viral. Like y'all remember that one chick? She said it was gonna be an EMP. It was about a year ago. Say it was gonna be EMP. How far did that spread? Y'all remember that? Come on, I ain't the only one. You're acting like I'm an eyeball now. Don't be agreeing to that. Nobody else heard about that sister talking about it's gonna be an EMP. And it spread all over. Go ahead, sis.
What is an EMP? I never heard of it.
Hey, you make me look real bad right now, sis. Dang. Go ahead.
So I believe I was rumored back in Texas, EMPs are electromagnetic pulse. It's a device, actually don't stay from the sun too, but the sun is about to radiate at such a level after destroying all the technology. It's going to bring us back to Stone Age. Pretty much like a weapon used to disable
Electronics, it's meant to destroy anything that has a capacitor, which is like kind of like what store like things that have like motherboards. It's meant to destroy anything that has like a motherboard, basically. So, and that's what it is. It's like a pulse. It's like you can set it off, and all the lights will go off because they all are run by things that have capacitors in it. Whether it not be here, but it would be like in the
it's like EMP bomb. Yeah.
But like the circuit board back there, everything will go. The TVs won't work. All of that EMPs. So, and that's what he was saying was going to happen. Y'all really don't remember this?
Nope. The car did. Yeah.
You remember the sister was saying it?
Yeah.
Nobody on the conference call. Y'all remember the sister said it was going to be EMP pulse bomb that was going to happen? It spread across every. Huh?
I don't remember it, but it's still contains some technology, so it makes sense. And I went to the right. I don't even remember that, but I understand what you mean by the terminology.
Azar, you remember this, right? I know you remember this, right? Azar, hold on one second. Azar, you remember this, right? Huh?
It was back in Texas. It was kind of Jones too was pushing it out. He wanted to upgrade the national grid system, the electronics, so it won't overheat when the sun. Because over this thing is going to be global warming. The sun's going to emit EMP rays, so it's going to damage our electrical grid and bring us back to the Stone Age. I don't want to.
But y'all don't remember that sister that was going on social media saying that?
We done told you.
You don't remember that, Azar? I'm talking Azar. I ain't talking y'all. I'm talking Azar. Alright, yeah, that's my dude right there. We go way back, so you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, cause I remember talking about because they records out a video game called Homefront. It's about Korea. You know what I'm saying? Going to set off EPM bomb to America. So all the lights go out.
Yeah.
When all the lights go out, they go invade America and take over. It's like a record, something like that with video games. So yeah,
they base that stuff on reality. So that's what it's supposed to do. But it's just like a rumor they would do and go spread it out. And then now I can't remember all the ones I've seen and I heard about, but it's just little rumors that they'll go, and that's how they take over places. Go ahead.
Hey, I definitely heard Edomite, speak on that. You know what I mean? If I could, sir, it'd be safe to say, With that being said, with me hearing Edomite speak on it, I'm pretty sure, brothers and sisters in the world and roll with it also 30 bucks.
You say you're pretty sure that what?
I done heard Edomite speak on that, back then. And I was like, if I could, if it's safe to say, I'm definitely sure if Edomite done spoken, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say, like, brothers and sisters in the world and roll with it too 30 bucks.
Yeah, girl. So, but we'll get back to it, but it's basically that's how they would do things. They would use different things to try to, like I said, spread rumors. One word that you can use too, y'all heard the word propaganda. They would use propaganda to make us hate our brothers and stuff like that. So we're back to the sister's thing. Go ahead, sis.
That's what I was just saying. They don't really use a lot of propaganda, to me, in my opinion, anymore like they used to, like people look like and how they did in Germany with Hitler. They used a lot of propaganda to deter black men from fighting in their war, as well as in the Vietnam War, they used a lot of propaganda to deter them, like fight with them for them. So, but propaganda back then was more done through newspapers or the radio in that time. It wasn't social media was so quick to hit the scene at a quick widespread.
It was more used on. It was more direct. Now it's like a little bit under the shadow, the propaganda. See what I'm saying? Like you know how like sisters are taught that it's better to be single or whatever. You always get taught that, right? Like every sister thinks it's better to be single. You can't say that you can't necessarily point to a video that says it's better to be single, right? You can't point to that. But what can you point to? Them shows Living Single, right? You can point to all the other shows. Everybody's single their whole life. All you see is single sisters. You see, give me some names. I know y'all watch them things. Love and Hip Hop, right? Go ahead.
Sex and the City.
Girlfriends. Girlfriends.
Those are a few shows that they always promote that. But unless you grow up with a father, you don't really get triggered by that. Like, it always goes back to the father being around. Because if you have a father, you don't be triggered by it. But they do promote it quite highly. Even in Instagram, the OnlyFans, and even the girl rappers or just actresses today.
So what did Cardi B say? I don't cook, I'll clean, I'll show you how to get that ring or whatever. So, like, you see all the stuff they try to show, but then you show her what was her behind doing? Cleaning. And all says talking about, man, you ever say you don't cook and clean? What your ass was like? What your behind doing? Right? But they get taught, she's teaching that. She's part of that propaganda. She's teaching that. Go ahead.
Beyonce as well.
Exactly. Single ladies.
A lot of them supposed to be single, but she's never leaving that bad. She just tricks women to think that it's cool to be alone, but in actuality, she's not going to leave my man.
Where she gonna find another Jay-Z at? Go ahead. Go ahead.
What you did brought out is so heavy, you know what I'm saying? Because it's two sides of that coin. It's called real life and not real life. The entertainment industry is a tool used to brainwash our people into doing and going against and not keeping the Most High laws, statutes, and commandments, because they know who we are. The entertainment industry is ran by the so-called Jews. That was actually his sons that always run, you know what I'm saying, run Hollywood and all big industry of that nature. And so they know that we are the people. So anything that's going to get our people to go against the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, whether it be eating pork, whether it be how you treat your man, how you treat your woman, how you treat your children, how you supposed to reverence the things that the Most High wants you to reverence, and keeping their feast days, and all the things the Most High wants you to do. They know what to do to get you off of track, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it boils down to. So I don't want to make a lot.
Okay, cool. I think another brother, was it first wanted to say something real quick? Okay. But yeah, that's what they do. That's what entertainment is for, right? That's why you don't learn history. You don't learn about the truth of Christmas in the Bible. They just rock your sleep entertainment. Go ahead real quick.
All right, Congressman, if I may, I just want to add upon that, you know, propaganda is the number one tool they use. Commander General Yahanna said they spend trillions just to make sure we don't know to keep us down, make sure we don't know who we are. If I may, real quick, I want, you know what I mean, they used to call it like the Negro Project and eugenics. Now they call it Planned Parenthood, change the name, right? And, you know what I'm saying, and it's back in the 30s, it used to be propaganda, now it's public relations and marketing. It was the brainchild of Edward Bernays, Sigmund Freud, and all these psychologists. I'll stop it there.
The water for that though. But yeah, that's all it really is. It's just propaganda they use. That's what, you know, marketing, like the brother was saying, that is propaganda. You know.
A lot.
Go ahead. Go ahead quickly though, because we want to get back into the topic. Go ahead. That's good stuff. Oh, yeah, just checking in. Alright, you 12 though up?
I'm 12, by the one. If I may, I had a comment to make, but you got
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, what you're saying real heavy, because, you know, how the industry, you know, and how these other nations brainwash our people, you know, they may have our women bragging on being independent and stuff like that. But at the same time, women not looking at the reality about how many kidnappings and, you know, stuff like that going on with our sisters and stuff. I mean, 100,000 being kidnapped and you still bringing about being alone, you know, from our young, you know, from our younger, you know, older women. And, you know, I just wanted to bring that out a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Like you said, they seen the strength of us, right? About how, what we was doing. We had families here, right? These Seminoles had families. They protected their family. They married in with the, you know, they took their wives in, women went, children went. They even married in with the Seminole women, Seminole men and black women, black men. They all, you know, married in, they intermingle with each other. So, and, you know, the whole point of how they even defeated that, I'm going to see if I can find it really quickly. I couldn't find it earlier, but basically how they ended up defeating the Native Americans is after we had beat them, we beat the mess out of them, they came back and attacked our women and children. Right? That's what they came and killed. They didn't come kill the men. They went and killed the women and children. And then that's how they was able to drive us out and capture us. Alright? Alright, go ahead.
What you bringing out about the Gullah Geechee, because the Seminole, right, is so heavy, you know, and thanks be to the Most High Christ for his truth, you know what I'm saying, the Commander General Yahanna. What the Passover is going to be held at, you know what I'm saying, that whole area, you know what I'm saying, before it was overran by the oppressor, used to be a reservation that was reserved for the Seminoles in that area. And we know that the oppressors, they break treaties and all that, you know what I'm saying? So it's a heavy fact, everything that you bring that out tonight, and also knowing that we're going to have the Passover in Seminole country, you know what I'm saying? The last standing stronghold that they had before, you know, the oppressor took us along.
Yeah, that was the last little bit that we had. We was like I said, we fought them for about, it was over 100 years. We was fighting, winning. We wasn't losing. Like when you think of being a slave, you were always taught you were losing. You was getting beat on the back. All of this, you weren't taught. You was actually free. You was living good. All of that, like the word, you know, the name Freeman, like Morgan Freeman. That comes from I'm a free man now. That's where that name comes from. So they didn't really have, they wanted to get rid of their slave last names. You know, Smith or whatever the case. They wanted to get rid of those names. They said, I'm a free man. Right? They started naming themselves colors. I'm Frank White, you know. I don't know. But, you know, they started naming blue, you know, different colors. White, black, or whatever. They started changing their names because they wanted to, you know, stay away from the slave name. Just like how when you come into the truth, you get a Hebrew name. They was trying to, you know, disavow themselves from slavery. All right, let's go back to what the sister was saying about this.
Became president in 1829 and signed the Indian Removal Act the following year. As a slave owner himself, he wanted to push the Native Americans out west and expand the Cotton Kingdom into Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, etc. George Washington figured the best way to deal with the Native Americans was to quote-unquote civilize them. The same way that Gullah Geechee was shamed into living and speaking more American than African, the Native Americans went through the same thing. But Andrew Jackson wasn't into civilizing. He proudly wore the nickname Indian Killer.
He loved that nickname, being Indian Killer. So, you know, that man on that $5 bill, Indian Killer. You know when they have, y'all know the history of like the Redskins of having an Indian head? Y'all know that's in representation of them killing Indians and playing with their heads. Right? You know, having their heads, they used to kick their heads around like soccer balls. You know, their head was all types of like decorations. And they would have different places. They would put Indian heads on the wall. Like, you know how they put like a deer head on the wall? They'll put an Indian head on the wall. So that's what all of that, the Redskins, the Cleveland Indians, all of those teams they named after, that's what the Indian heads come that's where it comes from, and that's why they, perpetrated it. Go ahead.
So, Roger, sir, Brother Heavy, if I may, on the same topic, General Muhammad was bringing this out, and he's like, there used to be a time on TV, I don't give it my age, but there was a time on TV when at 11 o'clock, 12, that was giving no more programs, and all you see is an Indian head, and folks say, no, that's targets, so targets are there, because, we're supposed to just remind them of the past. You know what I mean? Put a target in there and here, feet. It's like a calibration, so you can calibrate TV to Indian head. You know what I mean? It's a lot.
Okay. Like, what he's saying about is like back in the day when the TV shows went off, it used to be like a reticule, like a sniper reticule with a little, like a little T, and it would be like at an Indian head or whatever, and nobody never knew what that was talking about, but I was talking about this right here, the history of them killing Native Americans, them shooting them, and then having their heads, chopping their heads off, and they used to wear it around, just like, I'm gonna talk about it I'm probably wait till like right before the so-called Christmas holiday, and I'm gonna show you that even those, those baubles that you have on the when you decorate a tree for Christmas, those little round ornaments, those are representation of heads. That if you didn't bow down to this tree, that was your head hanging up on the tree. But I'm gonna bring all that out a little bit later, maybe a week or two from now. So I'll show that to y'all. Alright. But that's what it was. It was an Indian head. This was like a sport. It's like when you go, pass go collect $200. It was like that. You collect the Indian heads. So that's how they looked at us. It's collecting our heads. Like, who wants a head looking like a dead? Like, that just shows you how disgusting they are as a people. All right.
By 1836, he snatched all those southern states except Florida. The Seminoles weren't giving up their pride land easy. Jackson waged war against them again in 1835 and lost again. In 1842, the U.S. finally beat them and forced them out of Florida and onto the Trail of Tears into Oklahoma. Some stayed there, others went to Texas, and a good bit of them went to Mexico. Again, we all cousins. In 1845, Florida became the 27th state to join the USA. After the Second Seminole War, the U.S. decided to chill for a second and leave the remaining Seminoles of Florida alone. Then the president at the time, Franklin Pierce, he decided to get the rest of Florida too. So the third war popped off. But the U.S. ended up just paying the rest of the Seminoles to leave. They ain't want to smoke. In 1870, the U.S., recognizing that the Seminoles were hella strong and organized in war, invited them to join the U.S. Army. They were called the Seminole Negro Indian Scouts. In 1978, historians interviewed remaining scouts in Bracketville, Texas, and discovered that many of them still spoke Gullah and ate Gullah dishes.
So you see how that was. So they kept losing wars. They just basically just paid them off. So they never really captured them like that. All of the Gullah. They just, if you know something, what they'll do is, like I said, they crafty. What they'll do is, because they couldn't beat you all the way, what they do is they just take the land that's around you. So yeah, you can have this little bit of area and that's what you rule over, but how big can you get if I stop your border from expanding? You know what I'm saying? It's real, like I'm saying, it's clever as hell, right? How big can you get? You only can live in this certain area. You can never take me over. You can't go and unite with these colonies over here or these brothers over here. You can't go over here. We keep you locked in right here. We let you have your own freedom. That's what they do on the reservations, right? They let them, okay, this is your land. You get to love them, love your land. But you know what? You can't own property. You can't own a business. To get a business, if you're a Native American on Native American reservation land, is hard to get. If you're a real Native American, if you're a $5 Indian, it's easy to get.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Come on. Let me help you on the one. Can we say it's like a siege? When they put the siege around Jerusalem in 70 AD, they just control our land and our resources. You know what I mean? And we can't even, it's kind of important too, like, it closes off, and we can't really do, you know what I mean? It's like it's snatching us. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, that's the same thing they did like the brother was saying in Jerusalem. Jerusalem AD 70 AD, they would go like it would come on. They would like whenever they go to take over a city, like instead of going in to fight, because like I said, they can't fight. You all know this. They can't fight a battle. What they got to do is they got to go around the city, because like if you around this place right here, there's things that you can't do. You can't spy on them, see what they're doing. You can only see what you can see with them. They can see everything you're doing. See what I'm saying? You can all you see. We know what you're gonna see when you look at them. Them looking back at you. That's all you're gonna see. You can't see what they're doing, and that's how they like it. That's how they can come over and take over. They take over somewhere. Like they'll let you have that. Like I said, they forced them into the Everglades. The Everglades is not owned by anybody, right? There's nothing there. They don't care about the Everglades. They'll let you have that. But then meanwhile, you be in the Everglades, I'm gonna take over the real fertile and the rich land and then keep you poor. Because if the Mexicans, right? If they had the oil that was in California, guess what would happen? They could become a rich country. And the peso wouldn't be worth 25 cents like it is right now. It's like worth 25 cents to us. $1 peso. But their money will become more richer, but because they keep all of the resources amongst themselves, they stop them from getting richer, which is keeping them enslaved, basically. All right. Got another. You still with me, Sister Leah? All right. You know I always got to mess with her. All right, here we go.
It's hard to imagine that Hollywood hasn't jumped
A little
all over
video.
this. You would think it would be box office gold because it's part Spartacus and part Braveheart and part Amistad and part Glory.
Now you see what you said about Braveheart. I think that was the one. Is Braveheart? What's the name of the main character? Like the name?
I think William Wallace.
William Wallace. Y'all know that was a black man, right? That was a black Jew man, right? Not Jewish. He was a black Jew, William Wallace. And he said I was named after. It's just funny how she named it after William Wallace. And she's talking about, Braveheart, and that's what the Native Americans were, because they can talk about Braveheart because they whitewashed it, right? So they'll talk about that. But if you go into that book, the icons, the Russian icons, you'll see that William Wallace was a black man. He was not white, right? And they painted him over in the Renaissance era, all right?
A bit of Dances with Wolves thrown in. A
Can y'all hear it?
Decades long. Oppression and freedom fighting. I don't understand why there hasn't been more attention to John Horse and the Black Seminoles, but hopefully we can correct this. John Horse and the Black Seminoles deserve to be remembered for a number of reasons. They created the largest haven in the U.S. South for runaway slaves. They led the largest slave revolt in U.S. history. They secured the only emancipation of rebellious slaves prior to the U.S. Civil War, and they formed the largest mass exodus of slaves across the United States, moving from the Florida Everglades through Indian Territory, what would become Oklahoma, eventually locating in Mexico, where they secured title to their own land. It's a remarkable story. It's overlooked not just by filmmakers, it's not well known in popular culture, and in fact it's been overlooked.
But the funny thing is that there was the exodus from Florida to the Indian country. That was the Trail of Tears. It's always funny how they use words. Like the exodus was, we weren't necessarily we left. You know what I'm saying? We weren't, it's like there's a difference. But no, here we were forced to leave. But even still, it's kind of like similar, like, it's just funny how things like repeat itself. Like, you know how when we was running away from, we was running trying to get into our homeland, and Amalek was killing our women and children, our older people. They was killing you. I think it was Exodus 17, I believe it is. So I think the chapter is. It was telling about that. That's the same thing. The weak and the old and the women and the children. You know, the people that just weren't strong. Some, you know, of course, women made it, but you know, it might have been a weaker woman, or whether she was a pregnant woman. You know what I'm saying? But whoever couldn't make the journey, they was killing them. That's the same thing that Amalek was doing. We was trying to get in our own land. It's just funny how the same people doing the same thing after, you know, we try to get out of even they area.
By historians of slavery, if you can believe it. In the early 18th century, two groups in particular fled the colonial South into Spanish Florida, into the Everglades. One of these groups were Seminoles, who were migrating from the various colonies, just trying to avoid white encroachment, basically, trying to move someplace that white colonists weren't. And the other group was runaway slaves.
I heard of the white flight, when white people started leaving the inner cities so they can go in the suburbs. That's called white flight, right? This was the black flight. We was leaving them, getting the hell away from them.
People who were fleeing and trying to create a free life for themselves. Both were welcome in Florida. And in fact, the Spanish crown offered runaway slaves their freedom if they would defend the land for the crown, for the Spanish.
Exactly.
So a mixed society emerged in the Everglades of intermarriage, family intermingling between these runaway slaves and the Seminoles. And in fact, the first legally sanctioned black free town in the North American continent was in the Spanish Florida Everglades. After the American Revolution, people living in the southern states didn't really like living that close to a large armed population of former slaves.
Mostly
particularly when they
Andrew
were
Jackson.
with the local Native American nation, the large armed group of free Seminoles. And they knew.
Yeah, this is when they actually started making guns illegal for black people to have. That's another law they started making, so it'd be illegal for black people to have guns.
That their own slaves felt free to run away and be harbored by this group. They knew that they were welcomed. And so from George Washington's administration on, there was questions of what do we do about the problem of the Florida Everglades. In 1818, this was James Monroe's administration, General Andrew Jackson actually moved into Florida, invaded it, not authorized to do so. He was actually pursuing justice against those who'd attacked Fort Scott in Georgia, but he did it anyway. He went into Florida and claimed it for the United States.
And he wasn't even legal supposed to do it, even legally.
Took the opportunity
because it wasn't even their land.
to execute some of the people who opposed.
Well,
come on, Concept, the water real quick. They say he moved into Florida, right? Can we say that's a similar thing to when Clinton moved into Harlem? You know what I mean? He went out there to gentrify us, and they wanted to, you know, he threw over reconnaissance and all that. So like it, sir.
yeah, kind of. You can say this, that he moved into there because he wanted to, you know, get us out of there. Basically, he wanted to get us out. That's what even he said. Like, you notice what Harlem was. White people can't even come to Harlem, right? You would get your behind whooped coming to Harlem. But now, I mean, they're almost about to whip your behind if you in Harlem now, right? Harlem is where everything pretty much black, even the I.S.U.P.K was started in Harlem, New York. Everything black, everything business black. The lottery was started in Harlem. So that was like Harlem, and even the Harlem and what was it? Black Wall Street and Tulsa, Oklahoma. Those are like two big hubs of just black excellence we're at right there.
and also to clean out some of the areas of former slaves and Seminoles, because he felt that this would make it better for annexation. The United States then soon actually bought Florida from the Spanish. When Jackson became president, he decided to make sure that the black Seminole communities were moved out by force. So he pursued this in his policy, his larger policy of removal. This led to the Second Seminole War, which was 1835 to 1842, and became the largest and costliest of the so-called Indian Wars. Because the two communities were tied together, that is, the former slaves and the Seminoles, when the Seminoles were attacked in the Seminole War, this led to an uprising of the former slaves. In April of 1836, black Seminoles and their Indian allies moved together to create what was the largest slave rebellion in U.S. history. This wasn't just a matter of runaway slaves. More than 385 plantation slaves ran away from their masters and joined the black Seminoles, essentially in laying waste to the Florida sugar mills, which were some of the most valuable areas, plantations in the whole continent. One Seminole leader at the time.
So they wanted to destroy all of those sugar mills, you know, because that's where they was making their money at. So, like I said, they even took our own warfare against us. Like, you know, black people, we invented guerrilla warfare, right? We invented that because we were all, guerrilla warfare is like attacking, I'm trying to think what's the best way to describe it. Y'all know what guerrilla warfare is? Y'all familiar with that? So, you know, it was like, it's just unconventional warfare. We're not on two sides of fighting. And we did that because we were always outnumbered. We the smallest nation of people. We were always outnumbered. Go ahead.
If I may, when you talk about guerrilla warfare is not only our, tactic that, came from our people. It is the preferred choice of everybody once they figured out what our people was doing, We were actually turning into nature, and you would not know where we're coming from, behind you, in front of you, beside you, You really couldn't see us because we became nature itself. We were one with our land because, we had to protect and defend it. So the best way to do it is to become it. And during that time period, like you said, they were outnumbered because of the weaponry and then the amount of people and the disease that they were bringing with them, Guerrilla warfare helped our people for at least 300 years, until we just couldn't go no more, So
like we invented, you know how you wear like the BUs or the fatigue, army fatigues? We invented camouflage. So you don't even know that. We don't even know. Most we don't know that we invented camouflage. Native Americans, we would do stuff and blend into the environment, just like the brother was saying. That was our invention to do that. They took our invention and became even a bigger devil. Right? We did it for survival. They did it to kill you. If they would have left us alone, we would have left them alone. Right? But they used all our techniques to kill us, man. Alright. 34.
Justly remembered by history. Another leader who rose up at this time was John Horse, who was ethnically a black Seminole, and who would ultimately lead his people on a long and trying exodus to their freedom. In 1838, John Horse and the black Seminoles agreed to stop fighting the U.S. government in exchange for moving to what was then considered to be Indian Territory, which is now today the state of Oklahoma, and for legal recognition of their freedom. So despite the fact many of them were runaway slaves, they would have the opportunity to start over again as free individuals. Once they moved from the Everglades to Indian Territory, however, they found that their freedom was under attack both by whites and by other Native Americans. In 1848, a decade after they had made the agreement with the U.S. government, the U.S. Attorney General announced that the government never had the authority, the power to recognize their freedom. And in fact, they were still, those who had been slaves, still enslaved. This was like opening season on them, basically declaring that they were there for the picking. And so they did the only thing they could do. They fled.
So they said they were free, made a so-called treaty, said, okay, they were saying, okay, you can go ahead and move over here, right? Go ahead, move over here and be free and everything, right? But then you still a slave. Word came out, they just basically, instead of them fighting and taking over, they was winning them wars out of Florida and all of that. They didn't want them in Florida anymore. They wanted to move them somewhere else. Then they went over there. They couldn't feed themselves. So then they pretty much made it so they can get attacked from all sides. Because you know the thing about Florida, Florida is hard to really attack from any side of Florida because it's like the way it's shaped. You know what I'm saying? But if you coming in, you in the middle of Oklahoma. Sure, who the biggest, baddest rednecks in the world? Texas, right? Right below you, right above them. So you was just open season. And you got them other rednecks in Kansas, Arkansas. You know what I'm saying? That love to shoot black people, man. It was open season on them.
Once again, without security in Indian Territory, Horse and his Seminole ally Geechee probably went to Mexico, where slavery was already illegal and had been for a couple of decades. There, Horse became famous as a general in the Mexican army, and his people found a way to make a life. Once they relocated to Mexico, things changed. When slave catchers from the Republic of Texas went over the border to try to find the runaway slaves, they met resistance not only from the black Seminoles, but also from the Mexicans and the Mexican army itself. Eventually, the black Seminoles, led by Horse, gained legally recognized Mexican land, Nacimiento. Why isn't this?
But then you think that we don't like each other. You was thinking blacks and as Mexican or Isupk, right? You was taught that we don't like each other. But you see, we came over here, we actually got some type of reparations. We went to Mexico, we got our own land over there. And I can't think of the name of it, but it's Nacimiento or something like that. We got our own land. We had our own cities over there, right? So we think that we didn't get along. We got along just fine with Hispanic brothers, our Native American brothers. We got along just fine with them, as long as it wasn't devil interference. That's what killed our relationships with each other.
Well, for one thing, historians tend to be historians of Native American history or historians of slavery, but there's not many that move among these subjects, and it's a bit confusing because you have both the issue of runaway slaves and the issue of Native Americans kind of blended together, so it seems to fall through the cracks. Tradition is that Nat Turner's rebellion is the big turning point in the history of slavery and slave revolt. That happened before the rebellion of the black Seminoles, so it doesn't really fit the traditional trajectory. And perhaps most importantly, it really represents a blemish on U.S. history, not only because of the poor treatment of Native America as represented by the Seminole War, not only the poor treatment of African Americans through the device of slavery, but also because this group really did manage to negotiate a separate peace with the U.S. government, and 10 years later the government turned their backs on them. So it's, in multiple ways, a difficult story for people of the United States to tell. But it's worth remembering.
They said they did all that and the government turned their backs on them. That's what the Most High said. That's why the Most High turned his back on us. Because we put our faith in vain help. Anybody know what that scripture is?
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Come on, I think the land that they was given is called a hacienda. I looked it up. It said that's the Mexican version of a plantation. It's like a certain.
It's with the what?
So in the land that was that they inhabited over here, I believe it was called a hacienda. And that's, I looked it up and real quick, it said that's the Mexican version of a plantation.
Oh, haciendas. Oh, there you go. That's what they had. They had slaves in Mexico too. All of us were slaves from everywhere. Haiti, they were the only people that were able to, like, they actually got everything back in Haiti, right? But then what happened in Haiti? Was it an earthquake? See where they had to go? Go ahead.
If I may, that verse was Lamentations 4:17 of being held.
Can you get that from me? The post.
Lamentations 4.
Oh, wait, you got it. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead.
Lamentations 4:17. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. So
instead of trusting in the Most High, we trust in a nation that can't save us. They have no interest in saving us. While we were, there's another scripture I want to bring in. Let me see. Hold on. Let me pair that with another scripture. Okay. Yeah, next. Right after that, give me Psalms 55 and 21. But read that for me again. The last one.
Lamentations 4:17. As for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help.
So our eyes, our eyes, it failed for our vain help. We didn't get no help. We tried to, we literally have tried everything. We tried, like Martin Luther King had us begging, right? We tried, what else? We tried having the Black Panthers, right? We tried to act like, all of these different things. The only thing we didn't try, we even did Black Wall Street, none of that worked. The only thing we have not done was trust in the Most High and do His laws. That's literally the only thing we have not done. We've been Christians our whole life, loving white Jesus, love Him to death. But we have never followed the law, statutes, and commandments, because what happens when you follow law, statutes, and commandments? You have no choice but to love one another. The law, statutes, and commandments are supposed to make you love one another, which is the one thing you have been taught your whole life not to do, is to not love one another. That's why they had their law. Their laws was to keep you separated from each other, to make you not like one another. They spread the propaganda to make you hate each other, when the only thing we needed, like I said, was the law, statutes, and commandments. Like I said, we love each other. Just when you have this inkling of love for one another, we have Black Wall Street, right? Just a little bit of love, right? A real love, not the fairy tale love you see in the movies, but real love, which means you honor, you respect, you actually do what you say you're going to do for your brothers. You do all of that, right? And you got a moral code of conduct amongst each other. In the world, them brothers was clean. We was talking about Black Wall Street a couple weeks ago, right? They used to go to school in suits on. So you know what I'm saying? They didn't, they wasn't trying to be what they even tried to assimilate. They tried to look presentable, right? Hell, you even had one dude, he was in the military. He put on his uniform and stood on his porch thinking that they loved the military so much they weren't gonna kill a black man. He had a uniform on, right? Because he fought in a World War I. They killed him too. Right? Keep reading.
In watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us.
So we have watched for a nation that cannot save us. They have never done anything to try to save us. Even when the Spain, right? They said that you could come over here to Florida, right? You come over to Florida and you could be free. That was not to save you, right? They didn't care about saving you. They didn't care about you being a slave. You know what they wanted? They wanted you to fight for free. So they said, yeah, come over here and help us to, keep this land, because we was like, because Spain, they own, like Spain owns, like, or at least owned at this time, places like Cuba, Mexico, like places, they own these places, right? They own the Spanish-speaking countries down there. So they wanted that to be the buffer between them and those other islands that they own. That was the buffer. They wanted to keep Florida because of that. And they had us there fighting them for free. So that's what they wanted. They wanted free. They basically, instead of enslaving us and had us picking cotton, we was fighting their wars for them. This is another form of slavery, right? That was their whole thing. They vain help. Their help was vain. It didn't do nothing. Because you know what they ended up doing? They sold a Florida to America anyway. So how much did it profit us? They still sold the damn state. All right, get that next scripture for me. Psalms 55 and I think 21. You got it for me?
Yeah, Psalms 55 21.
Okay.
Look. Come, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 22.
21.
It's like 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter.
So his words that he spoke were smoother than butter. Butter is like real smooth, soft, smooth. You don't feel no roughness in butter, right? That's how his words was. There was nothing rough about it. You thought that when he said, y'all can come over here to Oklahoma, right? You're going to be fine. You're going to Oklahoma. You good, right? And what happened? And you was open season on you. Keep going.
But war was in his heart.
His war was in his heart. Not even battle. He wasn't even trying to fight you. War was in his heart. He was trying to win at the end. Because he knew that if he told you something, he knew he can say it in a way to make you believe what he said he want. But you was gonna believe what he said. He's gonna take him on his word, right? But war was in his heart because he wanted power and control over you. Like, you gotta think, in America, we don't even it's like illegal. Like, if you don't, like what they say, if you don't try to think of what it is. Like, if you want to live on your own, right, and you don't want to pay like a water bill or bills like that, they won't, like, the police won't even come to your house. I'm dead serious. Like, if you try to, I think it's like if you don't pay like a water bill, they won't come and use a fire hydrant to let your house on fire. They won't use a fire hydrant and let use water to stop your house from burning. They'll let your house burn up and contain it from burning up everybody else's house. Go ahead. Azar?
Is that, if I may, is that a sovereign or sovereignty?
Yeah, sovereignty, something like that. We try to be sovereign and all that. That's why it's goofy when what's the Moors try to say they sovereign, but they still get locked up, right? They show them they ain't really sovereign nothing, but they say I'm a free traveler. I don't need a driver's license. End up getting locked up, put in prison, right? Now you back being a slave again, right? All right, keep going.
His words were softer than oil.
His words were softer than oil, like olive oil, soft. You just float right through your hands, right? Keep going.
Yet were they drawn swords.
They drew weapons. They drew swords on you. So while they speaking so softly, so eloquently, they got war. That's the only thing that's on their mind. They want to kill you. Like when they came over here, they gave trinkets or whatever, trying to get the land. They said, you know, they sold, like they said that like the New York, that the Indians sold New York to them for like, you know, trinkets. But no, they thought it was like, you know, if you know you have a family member come over and all of that, you have a family member come over and they say, okay, you know, here go, you know, something that I have as a gift for, you know, taking care of me. That's what they thought it was, and then they were trying to take them and move them off of the land, and they start saying, no, this is our land. And that's where the term Indian givers came from. They said that they take it back something that they had, but they never gave it to them in the first place. They just said, yeah, you can live on the land, you can share it, but there's no such thing as ownership of the land, right? There wasn't no ownership. We all shared the land. They wanted to own the land and it be theirs, right? Because they want everything is theirs. They like that. Yeah, I think they're that child that was, you know, felt like neglected. That's how they were. They were that child. Go ahead.
Hey, it's like, is that how they, like, that was like we became like sharecroppers in Israelite?
We became sharecroppers after slavery because we weren't, trying to see how to put it, because we weren't able to have like jobs and they didn't want to go to jail, right? So they would become a sharecropper. A sharecropper is like say the slave master owned 50 acres, right? Now what you get to do is you work it all, you know what I'm saying, and then you get a percentage of the harvest. That's what a sharecropper is. So that's what their jobs became, because they already knew how to farm. They've been doing it their whole life, right? They knew how to take care of everything, but now they were able to own something. They know they're able to do something with themselves, right? So then that's how the sharecroppers came, because it was unlawful to enslave somebody unless, of course, you know, you committed a crime. That's where tips came from. They would give you a tip for doing something for them, so they could say that you weren't a slave because they paid you, right? That's where tips came from. So it's all little things like that, but that's what sharecropping is slavery that they give you pennies to work for. Same thing. And we even took those pennies and made big, you know, nice cities. They still came in and killed us. All right. Anything else? Oh, no sweat, huh? No sweat. Anything else you might want to bring out? Any other questions?
Well, I'm concerned about me.
Go ahead.
I'm concerned about if I may, I was excellent class to Wab, and like you said earlier, you know, they see everything, and we see nothing. That reminds me of an old Greek term called a panopticon, right? And now it's virtual prison, where you can see all the cellmates. You know what I mean? They build it where you can see all the cellmates, but we can't see none of what they're doing. You know, the question the devil about speaking to such a lot.
Exactly. They keep you from seeing exactly what they're doing. They making moves all around it. You don't ever get a chance to see, right? All right. Anything else? All right. With that, pass the class over to precinct officer in the I.S.U.P.K. Yahanna.
This is I.S.U.P.K. security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K. start at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Room for a new brother and sister. When a new brother and sister come to the school, they are limited for 6 months. They are here to be saluted only. They are here to set themselves of the world. If they need traumatization, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, and the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 through 10. My I.S.U.P.K. means take in the Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the church department and teacher. Priest farm. Free will for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you like to give. The next Holy Convocation is the Feast of Purim. That's going to be on Monday and Tuesday from February 14 sundown to February 15 sundown. And you can find this at the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 20 through 31. Remind I'll walk you to check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a trooper in school, start wearing all black, boots, shirt, pant, headband, or scarf. And one more thing you should do before you go to school, make sure you GPS the address. The address is 3353 Glenwood Road, Decatur, Georgia. It helps the acronyms out, help people find out for school. With that, give one church salute to the teacher and the men. Men Israel. Amida Sabat. Amida. Rock. Yahbashem Yahshabakatham.
Yahbashem Yahshabakatham.
Well, I say to you, in the Hebrew, may the Most High, in the name of Christ, bless you. Yah Matop, me hands down, Sar. Turn to the Sister Amida. Okay, we're going to give one curse salute to the sister in the class, in the building, and the sister online. Men Israel, Amida Sabat, Amida, Rock, Yahweh Shema Al-Thah B'Hashem Yahushai.
Yahweh Shema Al-Thah B'Hashem Yahushai.
Well, I just said to y'all sisters is, may the Most High watch over you in the name of Christ. Yah give them the top, me hands down, class dismissed.